Alan Davies. Welcome to my show. This is As Yet Untitled. This is the show without any agenda or topics or lists of things to say or intro. But we do have some guests who are going to help me come up with a title for the show by the end of the evening. It's our sole ambition. So please, will you welcome my guests? Here they are. Welcome all of you. Thank you for coming. So let's see. We have Alex Edelman here. Alex Edelman was that far from punching President Obama in the face. Alex Edelman is here. Sandi Toksvig, welcome to Sandi. Sandi Toksvig isn't as posh as you might think and just isn't very good with faces. Sandi Toksvig. Stephen Fry, welcome Stephen. Stephen Fry is often distracted by neighbours popping in and has his own take on Blur versus Oasis. Stephen Fry. And Sara Pascoe. Sara Pascoe is bad at speeding and has a confession about tickles. Sara Pascoe. I'm delighted to have you. This is the first time ever I've had a pen. So this is a new development because we're trying to find a title for the show each night and I can never remember any of the remarkably good ideas that come up. So now it's my job to remember to write them down. So actually, it's two things to remember. It's going to make it more difficult for me. How are you, Alex?
Good.
What's that?
This is an old-fashioned.
What's in there?
Whiskey and shit.
Whiskey.
So funny how if you say it like that, it's fine.
Yeah.
But if you said whiskey and shit, you go,
Yeah.
but whiskey and shit, it's fine. But whiskey and shit, terrible.
It's a very
That's a very different. That's a much more old-fashioned drink.
Yes.
I had a blowjob once.
I beg your pardon?
Which was
the
it's
shot.
like it's a shot, and it's like a sort of a brown colour. It looks a bit like Bailey's, and then there's some squirted cream on top. And the idea is you drink it without using your hands.
So it's like a buttery nipple
So
with
you
a
just
cream.
go and you put it in.
I just remembered the worst blowjob I ever had. It was fantastic.
How did we get here so quick? I thought within 15 minutes, but really, seriously, this is a land speed record.
I used to work in a cocktail bar, and how immature people are about their names gets dull really quickly. Because to you, every day, they're just words.
It's a long, slow, comfortable screw up against the wall. That's one, isn't it?
Yeah. but
Sex on a beach.
Yes, that's
this kind of thing. There's people asking, like, they think it's really funny. You're like, I work in a bar.
My wife used to work in a bar, and a guy came in and said, without looking at us, said, JD and Coke, 4 of. Yeah.
Where was the bar?
Somewhere in the city.
I was in the city, was it? Was he wearing a pink shirt?
JD.
I hate this guy.
You hate him, I know.
Already,
I hate him as well.
Just from the story.
I tell this story to other people, so they will hate him. I don't know who he is.
Why didn't you use
He's
this
the one
show
who
to
goes
track him
around saying
down?
JD and Coke, 4 of.
We must hunt him ruthlessly down.
Someone at home will know who you're talking about.
How long did you work at the cocktail bar?
Well, I got sacked, actually.
Oh, really?
Because I was giving away free drinks to my cousin. Apparently that's theft.
Was it actually your cousin?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I just like if you lied as well.
Just a stranger.
It's fine. It's just a relative.
Were you actually a cocktail waitress? I mean, do you know how to do a...
Well, they kind of trained you, so we had to kind of go away on coaches to other bars and be taught. Because no one wants someone to make them a cocktail after looking at a menu and going, OK, yeah, half of that. Hang on. Has anyone seen the peach schnapps?
The best cocktail recipe ever is Noel Coward's recipe for a martini. He said, what you do is you pour a large amount of gin in a glass and you wave it in the general direction of Italy.
This is name dropping of the worst kind, but the Prince of Wales, as far as I know, has one joke which he tells. If you're flying over the South Pacific or something, you're likely to be downed on a desert island. So always make sure whenever you travel, you have a hip flask and a small bottle of olives and some gin, some vermouth. See? So when you land on this island, your plane breaks down. You're alone, all alone. And if you just stand in a jungle clearing and you start to make yourself a martini, you can guarantee within seconds someone will jump out of a tree and say, "That's not the proper way to make a martini." It'd be good.
So, Alex, it's very difficult
Yeah.
not to begin with you
Yeah.
and President Obama.
I love President Obama.
Okay.
I feel like I now feel like I need to say that. But I was working for a baseball team in Los Angeles, and
As a baseball player?
no,
Okay.
I was working in public relations, but just as essential part of the team.
Do you have to get in the showers with them afterwards?
No, we weren't that lucky, but one day they said you can't leave during lunch, just so everybody knows. And I was like, what are you talking about? They're like, you can't leave during lunch because Marine One is landing in the parking lot. The security's locked down Dodger Stadium. And so, of course, I walk out to see the president land, and he lands, and then they say, well, there'll be a receiving line when he comes back. And the problem is I have intrusive thoughts, like a lot of normal people. You know, like if I'm waiting on a train platform and like the train starts to come, the voice in the back of your head is like, don't jump. And you're just like, why would I jump?
But that's everybody. And
Yeah.
apparently it's monkey brain in terms of your primate brain, which is used to you jumping from thing to thing. When you're somewhere high or there's a gap, your brain is going, do you reckon you can do it?
Yeah.
All of the time. So that is everyone.
But do most people have this when the president is coming down a receiving line? That part of my brain was like, when he gets to you, don't punch him in the face. And I was like, and it's super weird to begin with because receiving lines are so artificial. Like you wait behind a velvet rope, and the dignitary comes down and they shake your. It's like a reverse Madame Tussauds. And I'm standing next to the girl that I was seeing at the time, and like that voice is like, "Don't punch him," and I'm like, "I'm not gonna punch him," and like, let's make a list, pros and cons of punch. I was like, "I'm not gonna punch the president," but like, I'm so nervous that like I'm actually saying to myself like, "Don't punch him," and like my girlfriend just sees my face, and she goes, "Alex, don't do anything crazy," and I go, "Why would I do anything crazy?" And he gets to me.
Start going, "That's not far away."
But I was just terrified, and like he gets to me, and she's like, she knows something. She like cleared out to like make room for the snipers, and
Threw himself
Yeah, that's
face
real
down.
love,
like, he
Alex.
was like, here, he puts out his hand, and he goes, "Wow, firm handshake," and like a lunatic, I just went, "You have no idea."
Magnificent.
That's awful.
But why would it occur to you to? I mean, the punching
Just
thing.
because
Have you never been at a wedding and had to stop
Yes,
yourself from shouting out,
oh, yeah.
"Titty, titty, titty"?
We've got
you just want to see how badly you can screw things up for yourself.
When John Bailey married Iris Murdoch, they were going down the aisle at Christchurch in Oxford, and Maurice Barra, the Don, called across the aisle to a friend in the loudest whisper anybody had ever heard, "Of course you know I've had them both."
You can watch the rest of this episode on UKTV Play. And now for some extra stories that didn't make the show. The drones thing is quite an alarming development.
Yeah.
Do you not think?
Very.
Have you read Dave Eggers' book, The Circle?
Yes, terrific.
It's a wonderful book.
It's a wonderful book.
Yeah.
And it's about social media speculating.
It's terrifying.
It is.
Yeah.
Because this guy decides he wants to opt out, doesn't want to be found, wants to go off the grid, wants to, in the way that you once were able to do, just by leaving for a couple of days. And so they find him with drone. I won't spoil it for you.
Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
But they find him with a drone. They find him, right? So they chase him with a drone, and then you start to think, really,
Yeah, we're
you're
sort
not
of living
allowed.
in the drone world at the moment is a little like the early days of the internet,
Yeah.
and then the early days of social media, in as much as ordinary people are using drones a lot, sometimes very stupidly, dangerously, near airports and so on, prying on their neighbours, but they're using them for their own fun and their own enjoyment. All that's going to change. Basically, people won't be allowed to have one any more than they're allowed to have an assault rifle, in this country at least.
Help yourself there, Alex. Help yourself.
Fill your loads.
I did a charity walk with Jo Brand, the Sport Relief charity walk. I spent a day with her walking along, and they're making a documentary about her endeavour, and they had a drone camera as part to get this footage of her out in the wilds of North Yorkshire. And that was spooky for us. We found us, the most fun we had all day was hiding behind walls and trying to avoid and I picked up a rock and I thought, like, this would be funny, and immediately it swerved off and went right behind us. And it really freaks you out.
Gimbals and gyroscopes on them, the stabilising. It's
Yes,
so
five
impressive.
little propellers. It's incredibly.
There's video now of them. People are racing their drones around obstacle courses, and it's weirdly comforting to watch people do that. But you're right, it's going to be terrifying.
But there was a wonderful story, I think it was 2 years ago. The Indian army were very concerned about the border with China, and they were very concerned about drones. And they spent 6 months watching what they thought were Chinese drones and marking their progress in the sky. Turned out to be Jupiter and Venus.
Better keep an eye on them, though. Better keep an eye.
Best to know where they are.
Of course, yeah.
But Amazon's just starting deliveries, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you order a
And,
book or whatever.
restaurants as well now.
And restaurants.
doing
Your
that thing.
Deliveroo and your...
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you're proficient at archery, you get free food then. So it's just
Yeah, you bring one down and see what you get.
fair is fair.
There's a Deliveroo!
Oh, Indian again!
In terms of the not understanding Twitter thing, there's a really recent, such a charming story with Samantha Morton, the amazing actress, joined Twitter relatively recently, and her Twitter handle was Sam the Sparrow, because she thought everyone was pretending to be birds. But that makes so much more sense than what's happening.
Oh, the blank avatar is a bird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little egg, and it's called Twitter, and you think, oh, I'll be a...
I love to remind people that it's called Twitter in the sense that twittering is inconsequential, it's
Yes.
trivial,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
silly. And then Twitter, it doesn't need
Yeah.
to be constantly so
Ardilo
self-important.
Handler only ever tweeted once. You know, sometimes people take their name so that no one else can pretend to be them. And he only tweeted once going, "Hi guys, would you be quiet so I can say something?"
There's so I know this guy named he just goes by DeRay, but his name's DeRay Mackison, and he's one of the organizers and founders of the Black Lives Matter movement in the U.S.
Which movement?
Black Lives Matter.
Oh,
Black Lives
okay,
Matter,
okay.
And he's found Twitter to be a very powerful organizing tool for young people. And it's weird because I had never seen it ever as a positive thing before. I just saw it as a way to get, news from Ashton Kutcher and stuff like that.
And is that not a positive thing?
Sure. 10 years ago. But I got
Whoa, way to
weird
slam
dig at Ashton Kutcher.
You've got weird
Sorry.
enemies.
I like to punch
Sarah
up.
Jessica Parker and Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, it's a very... But,
So mobilising kind of disparate, dissident voices in
yeah,
America.
it's a form of movement of people who are outraged all over the world. But the problem is there's very little quality control. You can't tell who's who beyond, because it's literally...
But that's true with any form of communication. So
Yeah.
you can get a subculture together, but you can't pick and choose.
No.
Yes, but
It's like
never
there's a cloud
before
of
has it
people.
been so easy to take stuff out of context.
Yeah. And the Arab Spring was pointed
Yes,
to as
yeah.
a perfect example of how wonderful Twitter could be. But look where that ended.
Yeah, of course.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
And so it's weird. It's a weird fine line to figure out who's interested in things in your area. Because in one ways, it's incredibly effective targeting at finding like-minded people. So people like us who probably wouldn't have been able to find communities that we could have used as outsiders now instantly accessible through Twitter, finding those like-minded people. But on the other hand,
But you're never going to say the thing that's on your mind. When I started tweeting to
wants to hit the
500 people,
president,
I'd
yeah.
say what was on my mind. I'm
Yeah.
sitting at a table, the squirrels are in, they're eating the peanuts from the thing today,
Yeah.
and then 5 people go, how many of them are there? So there are 4, 3 of them are upside down.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Put a picture up. Take
Yeah.
a picture. I was writing a book at the time, which was more interest in me writing the book. None of the people who follow me ever bought the bastard thing. But they would tweet me saying, how many words today? And it was really fun. Now I won't. I put almost nothing up because
Yeah.
of the amount of
It
abuse
feels like
is
throwing a stone into a really
Alan
poisonous
Davies hates
pond,
squirrels.
but then
It's like poking
stings
a
you
nest.
back. Yeah,
But also,
yeah,
what's
poking
happened
a
with
nest.
social media, in a funny sort of way, people have become more dishonest, haven't they? Because they worry about the photograph that they're going to put up and they Photoshop them like crazy and they don't say what they're actually thinking and they don't say what they're actually doing. People are now, am I right, being paid to tweet?
Oh,
Being
yeah. On,
paid
Yeah.
on
for
Instagram,
Yeah.
there's a whole thing
Yeah.
with that where people earn their money through kind of soft advertising.
and I won't
Yeah.
say the name of like a weird enemy, but like I find that really distasteful now. That a lot of people who acquired sort of, especially in the early days of Twitter, people who acquired a lot of followers through honest means are now like, you do very little. I'm a beneficiary. Stephen plugged my 2014 Edinburgh show before anyone
saw it. That's why I unfollowed him, because that was a bad show.
He's got no judgment.
But on television, Noel Coward was once asked if he'd seen this particular television programme. And he said, television is not for watching, it is for being on. Twitter, unfortunately, is becoming like that. It's for tweeting, but not for reading tweets.
Do you not?
I think
see
the
what
opposite.
people are
difficult
So
to
I never do.
That's why I don't do it, you see. I don't do it because I can't take all the stuff that comes back.
But you don't have
I
to.
was thinking about Terry Wogan the other day, and I was lucky to meet him a couple of times.
He just passed away.
Yeah.
But he came on wonderful on QI, wasn't he?
QI, and I listened to him on the radio, growing up all my childhood, because my father loved him on the radio. And I asked him, at the end, we did a recording of a programme, I can't remember what, maybe it was QI, and I asked him if he ever watched himself. And he said, God, no. That way madness lies. And it now seems sort of prescient.
Yeah.
Because people are obsessed with them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Images of themselves, posting images, things about themselves, looking at themselves,
But
referring
then
to
if you
it's
went
really,
to any zoo
It
and
is
gave
madness.
chimpanzees little things where they could see their reflection, remember, we didn't evolve to have mirrors until, 2,000 years ago that they put silver behind glass. You saw yourself from the odd reflection or your shadow.
And even then, at least it was in real time. So if you moved one arm, then the reflected arm would move. What changed with cinema movies, motion camera and still cameras, was that you had no control over the image you looked at anymore. You suddenly were displaced from it. You'd see yourself at a wedding or something, and you go, don't do that. And people still do when they watch themselves on video. Go, stop it,
or
stop
even
it.
hearing your voice.
Yes.
There's a
Nobody likes
disassociation
hearing
where it
their
feels
voice.
like being lied to, but you just have to trust it.
But what's so creepy about it is not just seeing yourself, it's that now the mechanism through which you see yourself advertises at you. So it'd be like if you were looking in a mirror 300 years ago and it was like, Burger King, buy a Whopper, and you're just like, where does this banner ad come from?
Yeah.
But it's the narcissism I don't like at all. From my childhood, I've probably got 6 very bad Polaroids from my entire childhood, because my parents just couldn't be asked. And mostly very bad costumes from school plays, mostly. And that's it.
Yes,
and my
well,
whole children's childhood is recorded.
So did you find that the other way, you did want to take lots of photographs? Because it is a kind of mortality fighting, isn't it? That there's something that exists forever, and then if you put it online, then that as a moment or being able to share it feels important. So
I think
did you
it's
find...
worth translating selfie into Latin, because we use Latin words or English words, or as it were, Anglo-Saxon words or Greek words, and they'd have to be called egois.
Yeah.
Egoy. You're doing it kind of like an egoy, because that's what it is. Selfie.
That wouldn't
ego.
stop. That wouldn't
ego,
stop.
ego. I think it would at least give people pause, didn't you?
But don't you find
I
some...
like a creamy ego.
There was.
I just think it's weird because it depends on the story that you tell yourself. We were talking about this in it depends on sort of what you are comfortable using it for. Like if you put value in that as a measure of self-worth, then I think it's a real problem. But if you see it as like, I see Instagram as like a lovely diary, a way of like letting myself, I'm too lazy to keep an actual diary, but for me social media is a way of seeing the things that I've been lucky enough to do as someone who lives in an era where people can travel more than they ever had before. And
Can't you just
experience more
remember it?
things.
Then
Yes,
why do you have to
Of course
have
you know
a sort of an album
Oh,
of it?
You really? People have kept photo albums for a long time. Those 6 Polaroids must have some value to you.
But also,
They're not even in an album, darling.
So the reason I wouldn't... It's so odd. So I think I'm living my life really for after the apocalypse. And there won't be any way of getting online, so everything you've made is gone.
There's only
Unless
2
you've got
things
hard
that will
copies.
survive.
Oh no, I print out my tweets and carry them with me everywhere I go.
Yeah, you want to put
Do you
them
know
in a
what the
box.
2 things are that will survive the apocalypse? It's
Okay.
cockroaches
Yes.
and the toilet bowl.
Ooh.
And this is very odd.
They won't survive the rapture.
No, they won't survive.
Only I will survive the rapture. I and my followers.
It's a very interesting thing because the cockroach is the one creature that doesn't wee, and yet it's going to survive along with the toilet bowl.
Why is the toilet bowl going to survive? Is porcelain that
vitreous-
hardy?
Cockroaches need somewhere to live, Alex.
Yes, no, I do. Apparently, those are the
Yes.
things they say
The
will
toilet
survive.
bowl,
So I wouldn't.
porcelain.
Your Instagram account probably not so
No,
much.
no, it's not going to
What kind of apocalypse are we talking?
I think it's...
Now I'm very interested.
Okay,
You say it's
I
good to
think
leave my
I
Instagram.
just think it's going to be kind of natural disasters, then setting off radiation. I mean, I just pulled
You're
that. That's
cheery.
Not,
Must be a fun date.
My boyfriend's, what do they call it, prepping.
Seriously?
Prepping. Yeah, and he got really excited for his birthday coming up. He's going on a Ray Mears survival course. And I've never seen
Learning
a human
how to
being
survive
happier.
Ray Mears. Can't be done. Cannot be done.